Salesforce. All right, perfect. Then we'll go ahead and get jumped in and started right away. So let's talk about what we're going to cover today. Again, this is going to be focusing on the Consensus Salesforce plugin. We're going to talk about where you can place the Salesforce plugin inside of your Salesforce account and some of the flexibility and things you can do there. And then we're going to actually walk through using the plugin and what you can do inside of Salesforce with the plugin. Then we're going to talk about what flows into the plugin, what data, what elements, what things are you able to see right inside of Salesforce. So that as your users are in there using Salesforce, they know exactly what to expect and they know what features and functionalities that they'll have available as they jump in there. And then last but not least, we're going to have Veronica take over and run through setting up and running some reports with Consensus data and what you can do once the integration is established and your team's using Consensus, what type of data is now available and reportable to you. So in order to show you and talk about best what the Salesforce Consensus plugin can do, I'm actually going to jump right into Salesforce. So the plugin is built in a way that allows you to add it into your opportunities, your contacts, your leads, and even accounts if you want to. I would say most commonly we find our users adding them to opportunities as well as to contacts and to the leads page. And for each of those pages, the plugin is going to look very similar and function very similarly as well. We're going to start from the top just with the opportunities page. So I've got a quick little sample opportunity here, and I'm just going to reload it to make sure that nothing wigs out during our presentation. But as you can see, this opportunity here, I'm going to click into it. This is the one essentially we were looking at before while we were going through where you can place that. So let's start in the opportunity page. The way the Salesforce plugin works for Consensus is that it utilizes the email address of each of the contacts associated with the opportunity in order to display any demo board that's been created for that opportunity inside of Salesforce. So as you're creating those demo boards, and we'll walk through how that's done as well, so you can see exactly how that process works. But as you create those demo boards, we're going to utilize the email address that you have for that contact. In this case, we have Johnny Bravo, Sarah Fulton, Ellen House, and many more contacts inside of this specific opportunity. And typically what we find is users or sales reps are essentially living inside of Salesforce in order to understand where their account is at. A lot of times that's where some of the primary communication is and everything like that. I want to get just a show of hands for those that are sales rep or run a sales team. How many of you typically spend most of your day inside of Salesforce? Okay, I'm seeing a decent amount of hands raised. So for those of you that use Salesforce, whether you're living in there because that's just what you're used to doing, or for a lot of people, it's simply what your sales team lead wants you to do, and understandably so, to make sure all of your activities, everything is tracked under one house. It makes it a lot easier for those managers to drive reporting and follow up on things and make sure they understand everything that's happening with those different opportunities. Now, by raise of hand, how many of you are sat down with your team lead to make sure that the information or data inside of Salesforce is accurate and up to date, such as email addresses and timestamps, things like that? I know that's a pretty common practice here at Consensus, where typically our team leads are making sure that email addresses, that appointments, that everything we have inside of Salesforce is as accurate as possible. Again, the whole goal of that being to make sure that reporting is easier, because if you have two email addresses associated with different contacts that are actually the same contact, all of a sudden that can mess up a lot of different reports. And it can also have an impact on how our Consensus integration works within your Salesforce as well. So as you're doing those things, remember that there is a lot of importance there to make sure that the data is accurate, because that's how we can most accurately align any of the data collected from Consensus and be able to place that inside of your Salesforce. So looking at this opportunity page, what we see here within the Consensus plugin, and the way the plugin is built is you can place it anywhere within the page that you have set up. You can set it underneath a few other plugins that you have, or right at the top, which is of course what we always recommend. But in here now, because we're in the opportunity page, you can see any of the opportunities, any of the contacts within this opportunity here that have received a demo board from one of your Consensus demos. So you see Sarah Fulton has received a few from the Consensus standard demo to a testimonials demo. Gary Hurst has received a few. Johnny Bravo has also received the testimonials demo. And then you can also see some statistics about what their experience has been. So whether they haven't viewed the demo, such as Sarah Fulton for this testimonials demo, and you know that there's been no view time for her or no shares or anything that has come from that. We'll also show you anytime there is a view so that you can see the total number of views and what that represents in total view time, as well if there's any shares. So we can see here that Brad Zerner watched this customer testimonials and then he shared this demo. Now there's a few things that we can do within the Consensus integration with this type of share. And hopefully those of you that are on this call are fairly familiar with creating a demo board, sending it out to your prospects and what their experience is. But as a viewer is watching a demo board, they have the opportunity to share the demo, to invite others inside of their organization to be able to join that demo board and then go through that same demo experience, personalizing it themselves based on their unique needs and interests. Within the Consensus plugin, we can set it up so that any of those new invitees, if you will, or those that are now new recipients for that demo board can automatically be added to your Salesforce account. That way, if Consensus is helping you discover new contacts or new leads inside of those demo boards, then we can automatically pass that information over into your Salesforce account. That would then allow us to be able to send the data for that new recipient's views right into Salesforce for you as well, allowing you to make sure that if you're running reports and you want to understand who at a certain email address or email domain has watched what demos and how long they've watched it for, all of that information is able to flow in. Now, obviously, you can configure this. You can configure the Salesforce plugin in a lot of different ways. If you want to handle that type of lead input or opportunity or contact input on your own and have that done via a different approach, then you can simply disable that. But it's a powerful way to make sure that as you're sending out these demo boards to your prospects, and as those demo boards are doing some work for you to discover those other individuals inside of that buying group that needs to be a part of the conversation, that's one of the elements that you're able to take advantage of within that Consensus plugin to allow us to automatically pass those new recipients into your Salesforce account. And then, of course, be able to align any of their view statistics or anything like that right inside of your Salesforce. So now if you send out a standard demo, we can show you things such as how they personalize their demo. So you can see here with this Brad Zerner contact who watched the customer testimonials demo, because this was a standard demo, he was able to actually rate the features that were important to him. And you can see in this case, he rated all of the features or the different testimonials that he could watch as very important. So he was able to jump in and watch all of those different elements. The other thing you can do is then view the heat maps of what he actually watched right from inside of Salesforce. So we have a quick little link that will pop up from within Salesforce, and then it'll pull in the heat map of everything that he watched. So this is a great way to understand, again, without ever having to jump into Consensus, have that app open or jump in and log in and deal with that. You can now see what this individual watched. We know what he marked as somewhat or very important, but we can start to see that he didn't watch 100% of all of those videos. So that gives you some great insight as you're reaching out to this particular contact to know exactly what his experience was, what originally he thought was important, but then what he was actually able to experience. Maybe something came up and he had to drop and couldn't watch that demo or something like that. But we'll record each of the individual views. Here you can see view 1. If there's more views, then we'll continue to line those up so you can see those separated out and understand what his experience was without ever having to leave Salesforce. It's a great way for you as a sales rep or for your sales reps to be able to jump into those opportunities, understand exactly what's happened with each of those different contacts. And as they're reaching out, whether it's for a set appointment or just an email to catch up and try to drive the conversation, you now have some really powerful specific details about what each of those different opportunities have gone through within the different demos or demo boards that you've sent them. Now, if they rate some features differently, for example, you can see here John Bravo watched the standard 2020 demo. And there were a few things he marked as very important, but a few things that he marked as somewhat as well as not important. So if I'm on a call with John Bravo, I know that I don't necessarily have to focus on demos in multiple languages. Odds are is maybe he's just a rep inside of North America, doesn't necessarily deal with any opportunities or anything in EMEA or JPAC or any other locations. He's primarily going to be sticking to North America and maybe is just English speaking. That helps me understand as a sales rep how I can focus my calls, as well as I can start to understand if across the board, if I'm seeing all of these recipients with this Consensus Standard Demo 2020, and I'm noticing that all of them are marking the demos in multiple languages as not important, then as I'm following up with them as a group, I know that I don't necessarily need to focus on that aspect. However, if I'm noticing that all of them are marking scaling as you move up or down market as an important feature to them, then I know that's an area that I can try to drive or try to focus on, or at least now I have an understanding that that's an important area for them, and I can make sure I can send additional collateral or follow up, or maybe I have a testimonial specifically about that element, and I can utilize the data that you can now capture inside of Consensus in order to drive those conversations. Now, a lot of times during the sales process, you're going to send them original demo. Maybe it's this Consensus Standard demo, but then you need to send a follow-up demo. There is a few different ways you can do that, from inside of the app to other integrations, but we've built our Salesforce plugin to allow you to create these demo invitations right inside of Salesforce as well. And you can see this Create Demo Invite button right here. And as I click on it, what it'll do is bring up a little modal where I can type in the information that I want for this particular demo board invitation. Maybe this is for MetaTech, and this opportunity is floral. And then I want to add some recipients. So I know I want to add Sarah, and I'm going to add Sarah's information. And then I know I want to add John Bravo. So let's type in Bravo. Oh, let's see if I do Meta. There's John Bravo. I can add him right here. Now, because I have him as a contact, it's going to put his information in that I have about him right inside of there. And I can continue to add additional recipients and easily add anyone that's inside of this opportunity already. Or maybe there's someone that's not in this opportunity that I need to include inside of here, that maybe John shared with me is some sort of contractor that they work with. And because of the way they work with this contractor, they need to be invited to this demo board so that they can jump in here and take a look. You can also add individuals that aren't necessarily inside of here. Let's say it is Brad Evans at email.com, and I'm going to add Brad in here. And now, while I don't have him as a contact, if I want to, I can have the Salesforce integration set up in a way that will now add him, because we recognize him as a recipient in Consensus. I can automatically add him as a lead. And what we do is add him as a lead to make sure that you can do your own configuration behind the scenes to understand if that lead should be directly associated with this opportunity, or if that's a separate lead altogether that you need to associate with a different account, a different opportunity, and so on and so forth. Now I can simply select a demo, and let's say I want to send our GDPR demo because he's going to be doing some work overseas, and I need to make sure that he looks at our privacy and security and GDPR compliance demo. And that's what Brad's maybe main role is as a consultant, is to make sure that our system is going to allow them to be GDPR compliant, and make sure that we cover all of our areas to make sure that for security and privacy, we're covered the way we need to. Now, right from Salesforce, I can build out the subject and the message to be able to send right from within Salesforce. I won't send this one right now, but this is essentially the process you would go through, where you can easily add those recipients that you need for this particular demo board that you're creating. And you can even add outside recipients of this opportunity to make sure that those types of contractors or whoever else may be involved can easily jump in and be able to see the demo board or the demo inside of that demo board. So I'm going to click cancel here, and then jump right back in here. And there's a few other things that I want to showcase about the Consensus Salesforce plugin. One of the things you can do is search for a particular demo. So let's say I wanted to look at that Consensus 2020 demo that I have inside of here. Of course, it's going to take forever to load. Oh. Let me just copy that and throw it in here to make that easier. And of course, since this is running on a little test environment, it's probably not going to load for me, because that's just how things work in live. But what this will do is allow you to filter down and look at specific individuals or specific demos. So that way you can see exactly how a specific demo is performing. This allows you to see for, let's say, this Consensus Standard demo, if it might be separated from John's view compared to Sarah's view or anyone else that received that demo. You can easily sort by that to make sure that you can see it combined and be able to easily align the features that are important or somewhat are not important for each of those different contexts right inside of the Consensus plugin right here. The other thing you'll see is this total view time. This is similar to the chili pepper scale you're probably used to seeing inside of your track demo boards. And it's simply a quick indicator so you can understand how much engagement this opportunity and all the context inside of it has had with the different demos that you've sent them inside of Consensus. So each of these dots represent, just like it does in the platform, 2 minutes. So the first dot is 0 to 2, then 2 to 4, 4 to 6, so on and so forth. So I can quickly and easily tell that there's been a good maybe 10 minutes or so of engagement with different demos for this opportunity. And that's a pretty good start. That tells me that I know that a few individuals have jumped in there. I can see the individual view times here and there. A few people have really jumped in and watched over 5 minutes. Others have jumped in and watched about a minute or so, and I can see exactly what that looks like for each of those individuals. Now, along with the opportunities, you can also start to see this detail or this level of detail for your individual contacts as well. So I'm going to jump into that John Bravo contact that I have associated with that Meditech Floral opportunity. And now I can see that for John, he has received both the customer testimonials demo as well as the Consensus standard demo. And I can see for him individually now that he's watched, again, that 5 minutes of that standard demo, and he's personalized that demo. He only has the one view, and he received the customer testimonials demo the same time, but hasn't jumped in there and watched that. So now I can see maybe I want to send a follow-up email and I want to make sure that he can jump in there and view those testimonials. Or if I'm on a conversation with him, maybe I can provide that link again and let him know that, hey, this is a great way for you to understand how other organizations have used our solution and try to encourage them to jump in there. So you get a lot of the same information you would get inside of the actual application, and you're able to get that right inside of the plugin without having to jump out of Salesforce simply by navigating through your normal everyday day-to-day activity of jumping through those opportunities, looking at specific context to understand what they're doing, how they're interacting with your Consensus demo, and any other assets that you might be sending them. Now I want to talk a little bit about how data is collected and what type of information or what data that is used is sent over into Salesforce. Within Salesforce, not only will you see the demo boards that are created here, but for specific leads as well. So if you are inside of your account and you set up the Salesforce integration to sync up with your leads, any qualified leads that come through or are generated from your Consensus demos, for example, some of these test ones here, and of course it's going slow with the Zoom showing and everything else pulling up. But anything that shows inside of your qualified leads will also show or be able to be sent over into your Salesforce. So a lead would look very similar to this, where it would show the plugin and then it would fill in all of the information for that demo that was used to generate that lead. And again, if it's a standard demo, we're going to include the feature rankings so that you can understand for that lead what feature was important. That way, as you assign those leads to an opportunity and then that sales rep jumps into work with them, not only do they have a name and a few basic things to reach out about, but now they have some in-depth information about the exact experience that that opportunity or that contact went through. So as they're reaching out to them, they can already start to have some more in-depth conversations about what's important to them. The great thing about this Salesforce plugin is it's the data that we show you inside of here is completely independent of where anything is generated for Consensus. So whether it's a qualified lead that's generated from a public demo placed on a web page somewhere or sent out directly to someone or anything like that, any of that data will flow directly into Salesforce. Same with any demo board you create. Whether you create that demo board inside of Consensus itself, whether you utilize our Snap plugin to be able to create a quick demo here, but with one of your existing demos and you use the Chrome Snap plugin or the Edge Snap plugin, any demos created here or anywhere else like Outlook or anywhere else, all of those demos that you create will show right inside of your Salesforce. So there's a good chance that maybe this customer testimonials demo and the standard demo were generated inside of the application, but even if they were, they'll still show up inside of the Salesforce plugin so that you can see any demo board that was created for, in this case, this particular contact that we have here. So that's what we wanted to be able to showcase, to show you what you can do with the plugin itself and how some of those different elements work and some of the information that you can gather from it. Again, just like most of the apps that you're working with inside of Salesforce, there's a lot of configurations and settings that you can use to determine exactly how you want things to be set up, who you want to have access, and things like that. We're not going to go too much of a deep dive in this call on some of those configuration options, because if you've ever worked in Salesforce with some of the profiles and configurations, it can get pretty in depth. And so we have a team here, of course, to make sure that we can help you get things set up the way that you need to, so that as you are starting to set things up and want to make sure you can take advantage of the Consensus plugin in a way that's going to best enable your users for your specific use cases, we want to make sure that it's flexible in a way that allows you to do that. What we're going to do now is pass it over to Veronica, and she's going to jump in and showcase some of the ways that you can take this data here that we're collecting for you with the demos for qualified leads, or the demo boards and the recipient views from those, and how you can start to take this information and generate some reporting and get some really powerful insights from it. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Veronica. And hey, Veronica, it looks like you might be muted right now.
And now?
Perfect, we got you.
Cool. How? Cool. So I am Veronica, and I'm going to show you how to run reports in Salesforce with consensus data. We keep consensus data in custom objects, but in reports, we would like to bind them to standard ones, such as leads, contacts, or opportunities. So let's see step-by-step guide how we are going to do this. We have to go to Setup to be able to create a new report type, which allows us to configure what dependencies is going to be set up for this report. So here in Quick Find, we need to type report and select report type once it's available. Here we are. From our clients, we know that if you are working with Lightning mode, you need to be more patient than in Classic mode. So now we need to create a new custom report type. And as I said before, we need to select a custom standard object as a primary one, for example, contacts. It can be leads as well, and opportunities and accounts. Now we should select a label, for example, contacts with consensus data. And select category where we are going to keep this report. As far as this report is in development, we can keep this option and click Next. Second step is to define records relationship between one another. So contacts is a standard one. And from the second step, we are going to select the first custom object, which is See Invitations. This object keeps information about links that had been sent to our recipients. Second one is See Views. This one keeps information about view activity of each recipient by itself. And the last one is See Features. As Brian told you in the beginning, not all types of demos has features in them. So only standard demos has features. That's why we need to select second option. See Records may or may not have related D records. Also, we can see here a tip, object limit reached. It means that only 4 joins can be set up. And I would like to show you that if you select opportunities as the first one, you can get to see features. That's why please take it into considerations while generating a report. And don't forget to click Save. The last one, preparation for the report type, is layout. So layout is help us to predefine some of the fields. So user or end users in your organizations won't need to pull all standard fields into report once and one more time again. So for contacts, I would like to have account name. I would like to have first name instead of full name. And for C invitation, I would like to have shares, time last view, total view time, type, views, and I will click name because as you can see for custom objects, we have name predefined and it's kind of system fields that don't keep any necessary information for your reports. That's why I would like to uncheck them. For CViews, I would like to have duration of the view. And for features, I would like to have title and value. And then double click and expand a little bit. So I would like to be checked by default account name, first name. No need for full name because I don't want to share the full information about our clients. And no need in name, duration. And for feature title, I would like to know that it's feature title. That's why I type display as feature title. Okay, you can see black check marks here and click save. Here we are. This is our report. Once we have report type saved, we can go to reports and run a brand new one with a new type that we just created. So once we are in reports, we click new report and select the type that was just created. The name was contacts with consensus data. Here we are. Continue. As you can see, all defined fields are here in columns, and there is no data in preview. It means that we should pay attention to the hints that Salesforce asks us to do. It means that for every new report, there are two predefined filters that we are going to remove to see some data in preview mode. Here we are. In the left panel fields, we can drag in any field that is needed. For example, title, double click, and wait a little bit. Maybe I missed something. Yes, now I see it's working. And I can reorder it. Also, as you can see, I can remove anything from here. For example, time last view. And click refresh. So this is just a preview mode, so you won't see the whole information, but still we can save and run a new report and see the whole information engaged into one report result. As I said, we need some more patience here. While we're waiting, I would like to say that all the information that is kept into consensus are also kept in Salesforce in custom objects. So you can basically have access to all of them. So what we can see here, we have two types, sales and marketing. When it's sales, we have demo invite, and when it's marketing, it's public link. And right now we don't have, for example, functionality for shares for marketing links, but in near future, it's going to be done. Let's see who is the winner on shares. Who is our contact that is very cheerful and share our link the most. Here we are. It's Rob. And as I said, is sales type. What we also can see, it's total view time. By default, it's in seconds. And feature title. So there are values. High means very important, medium somewhat important, and none not important at all. These values are by default. You can convert them in anything you would like to see as a result. That's it from my side. Do you have any questions?
Thanks so much, Veronica. It's really important to see some of the aspects that you can pull out inside of this reporting. Again, this is all information that's typically stuck inside of Consensus that's available in a lot of our reporting pages there. But being able to have this inside of Salesforce will allow you to pull from your existing opportunities and elements and other aspects that you have to create a report that gives you a really holistic view of what Consensus is doing for you. You can take this information to understand, conversion rates for closed won opportunities and different things like that, to understand the speed of your sales cycle from moving from one stage to the next and what type of input or impact that those Consensus demos have had on those types of different opportunities and things like that. So that's what we wanted to be able to show today. So we appreciate everyone joining. We want to just finish up by seeing if there are any questions that you have about the Salesforce Consensus plugin, about maybe what you can do or anything like that. We'll have Derek go ahead and run the QA session. So we'll have him get us started and run through a few questions.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Nice job, and thank you both for that. There are a few questions coming in. If there are any more, please put them in the Q&A section. First question is, when is this plugin going to be available?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So right now the plugin is available. However, we are working to have it available through the App Exchange currently. So it's available as what would be a side load or an unmanaged package, where you would simply just install the package outside of the App Exchange and then implement it that way. So it is available. If you're interested in jumping in and using the Salesforce integration right away, then absolutely contact your client success manager and they can work to get you the Salesforce plugin link and start to get things set up and running from there.
Nice. Next question. Do I have to send the demo from within SFDC to have the data show there?
Yeah, that's a really good question that we get a lot. And we've built the plugin in a way where from anywhere you send a demo board, we're going to capture that information and send it into Salesforce. So whether you send it directly from within Salesforce, which you of course can do within the plugin, or if you're using something like our Consensus Snap plugin for Chrome or for Edge or for Gmail, or you're using like the Outlook integration, or even if you're just sending it directly from within the app, then all of those different sends will all land inside of Salesforce for you. I'd actually want to ask real quick by raise of hand, how many of you are currently sending demos through another integration such as Outlook or Consensus Snap? Okay, great. I see a few hands, and that's really important because those tools are built to make things a lot quicker and easier for you than having to jump inside of the application every time. How many of you are primarily sending demo boards or creating those demo boards from within Consensus, the web app itself? And you don't have to be afraid. It's okay if you are, because the full functionality, of course, is still there. But of course, our goal is always to make it as easy as possible for you as a sales rep to be able to generate these demo boards and get them out to your contacts and opportunities. And so that's why we built Salesforce in a way where regardless of how you create that demo board link, it's going to show up in your Salesforce account so that you can see all of the different demo boards and the demos that those prospects and contacts have seen.
Nice. All right. Next question. Can I limit which users have access to the plugin?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We have a lot of accounts that maybe want to run a kind of a test program or something like that. Maybe you don't want your entire Consensus users or all of your Consensus users to be able to have access to Salesforce because you're piloting something or whatever it may be, or because of their role or anything like that. There's a few things that you can do. Within the configuration, you can actually determine which users have access to Salesforce. to the plugin. And if you don't add them to that, then it'll simply remove them and they won't be able to see any of the data there. You can also work with your different profile pages and profiles that can determine what access they have to the actual Consensus plugin. There's a few custom fields and things like that as well, that as you're setting things up, you want to make sure that those users that you want to make sure have access to this plugin will have access to some of those custom fields that we'll create for you inside the integration, such as things like the name of the Consensus demo title, which isn't exactly a Salesforce standard field, as I'm sure you can imagine.
And will a plugin be available for Microsoft Dynamics as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Dynamics is something that we are starting to look into to get an idea of what we can do there. Obviously, they offer a lot of similar services as Salesforce does. And so we're always looking at opportunities to expand our integrations and make sure that we understand where our users or end users are spending most of their day, at least most of their business day, if you will. While even your business day might be at home at this point, if you're online and you're in Microsoft Dynamics, or if you're in Salesforce all day long, our goal is to make sure that Consensus can easily be found and used wherever you're typically living, just to make it really simple for you guys to jump in and adopt. So we don't have that right now, but that's definitely something on our radar. And as we make progress on that during the research and analysis phase and things like that, then we can make sure to keep people posted if they have interest in that. If you do have interest in that, I would urge you to reach out to your client success manager, just so that we know who's using Dynamics and what interest level you have and what type of functionality you'd like to see there, just to make sure that we can keep you on that type of contact list to reach out to when we're starting to make some improvements or get farther along within that type of integration.
Great. Next question. I use Salesforce Classic because I don't love Salesforce Lightning. Does this integration work in Classic mode as well?
That is a very good question, and you are definitely not alone. I myself struggle with Lightning a little bit. I've gotten more used to it, but it's definitely a different platform. They've almost redone the whole styling and everything. So if you are still on Classic and you're really pushing the Classic, then no problem. This plugin will work just the same in Classic as it does inside of Lightning. In fact, if you're setting things up, our knowledge base article will showcase kind of both sides of the Salesforce house, if you will. So you can see how some of the setup may need to be done on Classic, where a few of the different elements or a few of their different menus and things like that are slightly different in Classic than what they are inside of Lightning. And so we'll help you understand in Classic mode how you can still set things up and keep Classic, which we definitely understand some people absolutely prefer.
All right. We are running out of time. There's one more question, so we'll take this last one. Is there an additional cost for the Salesforce integration?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we have two different Salesforce integrations. One is called our Salesforce standard integration, and there is no charge for that. So if you wanted to test drive the Salesforce integration, if you will, we have a Salesforce standard integration. And most of what I showcased during my part of the presentation of seeing some of the demo board details come through and being able to create a demo board from inside of Salesforce, all of that is accessible in our Salesforce standard. We do then have a Salesforce Enterprise plugin, and that Enterprise plugin does have a price. And if you're interested in the Enterprise version, which contains the ability to generate those types of reporting, so that as we pass the data over, it's sent over in a way that's placed inside of custom fields that are reportable for you, so that you can develop a lot of these different reports or dashboards and things like that, and truly be able to understand the impact that Consensus has on those different opportunities and contacts and so on and so forth. All of those features are available inside of the Enterprise. And if you're interested in that and what that pricing structure looks like, then you can reach out to your client success manager or account executive, and they'll be able to review that with you and help you see what that looks like.
Perfect. I think that's it for questions.
Great. Thanks so much,
Veronica.
Derek. Perfect. Thanks, Veronica, again, for jumping in to show us some of the reporting. Again, if you have any follow-up questions or anything we weren't able to quite get to today, please make sure to reach out to that client success manager, or feel free to chat us right inside of the web app where it has that little chat icon on the bottom left. And we're more than happy to answer any additional questions that you guys may have. Thanks so much for joining us today.